Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. The previous lessons we had started with shurut salah, the conditions for salah to be correct, and we said these are shurut which are mentioned before, qabla as-salah. Anybody remembers? Anybody went over them? Saeed, first condition for salah to be correct, quickly, and then we'll start the new lesson. Saeed.
Yeah, Sheikh. The first condition is I want us to be ritually purified. I've made wudu or
Tahara.
ghusl.
Tahara.
Tahara,
Okay.
yes.
Second condition, Saeed.
Also the cleaning of the physical impurities on the
Yeah. So
body,
this
the
is
clothing,
tahara
the
min
place of
al-hadath,
worship, khabar.
tahara min al-hadath, and tahara
Yes,
min al-khabath. Third one.
ghabath.
No, third.
The time of salah, one has to enter the correct time.
Time of salah. So if person reads before, their
The
salah is not
awrah.
counted. Hold on. Full waqt. And then 4 is Said.
The awrah, covering of the awrah properly.
Awra. Okay. 5.
5 is the niyyah, intention.
Niyyah. And 6.
Facing the qibla, the Kaaba.
Facing the Qibla. So notice, and we took a few masail which are related to these. Notice how all this is before the salah. Okay. Notice how all this is before the salah. Thereafter, we move on to fara'idus salah. So how they tell you, there's a condition before the salah. Now we're coming to the salah itself. We're coming to the salah itself. Now you could divide it like this. Look here. It's your salah. And then you've got those things which they call fard. Or fard and plural fara'id. Then you've got wajibat. And then you've got, we could say sunnah, mustahab, even though the Hanafis slightly differentiate between them. Fara'id, wajibat, sunnah. The main difference between fard and a wajib in most occasions is if a person misses a fard, okay, they have to make it up. As for a wajib, if a person misses it by mistake, here if a person misses a fard, even by mistake, they must make it up. Here wajib, if a person misses wajib by mistake, okay, they can still make sajda to sahu for it. Then what's not wajib is sunnah. So generally a few of the Hanafi books, in fact, Quduri and Hidayah, they'll tell you the fara'id. They'll tell you the fara'id are 6. Okay? And then they'll tell you 1, 3, 4, 5, 6. Then they'll say everything that's not in these 6 is either wajib or sunnah. Okay, because there's a lot of things. And then they don't mention the wajibat one by one at the very beginning of the chapter. They then go on to describe the salah, and in that description, they mention it. So we'll go according to how they've gone through it. We'll take the fara'id first, and then they start on, and then they tell you whatever is not here is either wajib or sunnah. And then they start describing the salah, and we'll reach the salah until where he's supposed to, or she's supposed to begin to recite. So they tell you, fara'id of salah are 6. This is in the salah. The first one, they call it at-tahrimah. Okay? Or takbiratul tahrim. This is when a person says Allahu Akbar to begin the salah. So there's 2 types of takbirat. I'll just put it here for now. It's takbir in salah. Okay? You got that takbir, which is to start the salah. Okay? And then you got those takbirat which signify that a person is moving. Takbiratul intiqal. Okay? Moving. So they tell you the compulsory one is the one that you need to start the salah with. Okay? At-tahrima. I'm not going to go in depth into them speaking about the fard and shart, etc. What you must know is the main books, they mention it with the fara'id. Okay? So number one, at-tahrima. To say Allahu Akbar to begin the salah. Why is it called at-tahrima? If you notice, it's close to the word haram. Because things that were permissible before you said this Allahu Akbar, such as, for example, eating and talking and moving around, that this Allahu Akbar made all those things which were permissible haram now. So you've started Salah, Salah has its etiquette, Salah has the things you need to go through it. Okay? That's the first part, at-tahrima. The second is al-qiyam. Qiyam is to stand. And what I want you to realize is, I've told you this before, but I'll tell you again, I'll remind you. In fiqh, when they teaching you majority of the books and almost all the madhahib, they give you the first general rule, and then they teach you exceptions to the rule. So you must know the first as the foundation, then you go to the exceptions. So similarly here, if a person says, what if I can't stand? We're not talking about that right now. That will come where we're saying the default is a person stands. If they can't stand, the chapter is coming. So the second fard in Salah is for a person to stand in Salah. You stand facing the Qibla, okay? As long as you're able to stand. The third is al-qira'ah. Qira'ah means to recite. As for what to recite, how much to recite, all that is still going to come. They told you that al-qira'ah, for a person who is able to recite, they must recite. Okay? The fourth obviously is going to be ruku'. The fifth is going to be sujood. And the sixth is going to be, they call it al-qa'datul akhira, or the last sitting. Notice how they specifically said the last sitting. Okay? So these things are compulsory in the salah. Tahrima, to begin, look, you begin the salah, Allahu Akbar, and you be, whilst you're standing if you can, and then you have to recite a little bit, and then ruku', the sujood, is the last sitting. And they tell you, without going into detail, some of the books, they say whatever is not included in this list either falls under wajibat and sunnah. Difference between wajibat and sunnah, as we're going through the salah, you'll take them. The wajibat, for example, if a person's reading 4 rak'at of salah, okay? After 2, he's supposed to sit for the first tashahhud, okay? And this is the first sitting. He must sit, but let's say he forgot and he went to the third and the fourth he remembers. It's not a fard, it's wajib, okay? He did it by mistake. So he doesn't go back to make it up, but sajda to sahu can compensate for that mistake because it was wajib. So you see the difference. Fard, you have to do it. If a person forgets ruku and sujood, they must read the rak'ah again. Okay? As for fara'id, as for wajibat, if you miss them, then you can make sajda to sahu for them. Sunnah, for example, person saying Subhana Rabbi al-Azim more than 3 times, etc. They have what's called the bare minimum, and they have what's sunnah. Here a person misses out, etc. There's no need to, there's nothing to compensate it with. That's the main difference. Also, bear in mind we're learning the Hanafi madhab where they have a difference between fard and wajib. The others, they call fard and wajib the same thing. Okay? They call fard and wajib the same thing. So here we're talking about Hanafi madhab. Right? Thereafter, after you've taken this note, have you understood up to here so far? Tahrima, Allahu Akbar. Qiyam, you're standing. Qira'ah, recite. Ruku', bowing. Sujood, prostration. Al-Qa'datul Akhira, the last sitting for the Salah. All are fard. Thereafter, They now go on to describe the salah in detail from the very beginning. They go on to describe the salah. In this description, you'll find more detail now on all these things as they come. You'll find more detail on all this as it's coming. Okay? So we'll start off the description of the salah because there's a lot of masail to take. And then we will we'll stop when it comes to recitation, and then we'll continue tomorrow, inshallah. So when they're describing the salah, obviously, logically, the first thing a person starts with, notice how we're not talking about anything before salah, we're talking about the salah. Do you start with takbir? So this a person says, Allahu Akbar. Okay? The safest is to say Allahu Akbar, and this is according to an opinion in the Hanafi madhab as well as the other schools of thought. As for saying, for example, something other than Allahu Akbar, like Allahu A'zam, etc., there's debate in the Hanafi madhab about it, some allowing it. However, we'll tell you stick to Allahu Akbar. Okay? If anyone wants to go into the finer details and the whole long debate in it, you can go to some of the Hanafi books. Right now, we're describing the Salah. So you start off with the takbir. Number two is as you're starting off, and notice how this takbir falls into takbirat tahrim. As you're starting off, they have a method to raise the hands. So they tell you, if you look at my hands where I am, they say you raise your hands, okay? And this all they describe this. So this is raising the hands. The palms facing Qibla. That's the majority opinion in the Hanafi madhab. The palms facing the Qibla, so not like this. Majority opinion in the Hanafi madhab, palms facing the Qibla. And see my ear here? They say hadwa or hida'a udunay. We're in line of the ear lobe. Ear lobe is the bottom part of the ear. Okay? And in some books, they tell you that touching the ear. And some, when they explain in the book, they say meaning to say very close to the ear. So you're raising your palms according to them. The Hanafi madhab. You're raising your palms, they're facing the Qibla, up to the ear lobe, where your thumbs are, literally close, if not touching, the ear lobe. Okay? And you're facing Qibla. Say Allahu Akbar, and that's how you start. So number one is the takbir. Number two is how to raise the hand when starting. Number three, after you've said Allahu Akbar, and notice how the palm, there was detail just before I get into that. The thumbs are close to the earlobe. The palms are facing the Qibla. And you're raising them all the way that, they're in line of the ears. And then they speak about the hands after you start the salah. So you've said, came here, said Allahu Akbar. Where do you put your hands? So here they divide into two. So this now is speaking about the hands. I write one letter, but when you're making your notes, you can write. They have men and they have women. Okay? The Hanafi madhab, again, they go to great depth to describe it, even the other madhahib. See, this is my right hand, but looks like it's mirror form. The small finger, as well as the thumb, wraps around the wrist. You see, like that. And the other three fingers sit on the top here. Okay, that's for a man. So the fingers, small finger as well as the thumb, wrap around here. And then they put the three fingers just on the top. And the hands are placed below the navel, below the belly button. This is for men. So person starts and they say like this, Allahu Akbar. And the hands are tied in that specific way, placed below the navel. The other madhahib also have their way of tying, and even in some of the madhahib, some agree with them tying below the navel, etc. As for women, say a woman, when she starts her salah, she doesn't tie her hands, puts the left hand and the right hand on top of it, and her place is just below her chest, below her breast, literally. So that's the difference between men and women. Obviously, they've gone to great lengths when it comes to describing this. So have the other madhahib. And you've got to remember that in those days, there wasn't video and there wasn't knowledgeable people everywhere. What if somebody picks up a book that they found, or a letter, or a small booklet is written to a town far away? They've got to understand everything. People will have questions. So they try to describe the salah as in depth as they can. And then after that, so this is all to do with the beginning of the salah, okay, in terms of the physical action. After that, you then got the recitation, and inshallah we'll start off with the recitation tomorrow. Bearing in mind that these are all masail. Masail means, for example, when it comes to the hands, how to tie the hand, etc. All that's a mas'ala under mas'ala under mas'ala. Another thing, between the madhahib, you must remember this, they mentioning what they believe to be true, but it's not under their fara'id, if you look at it. Tahrima, qiyam, qira'ah, ruku', sujud, qad al-akhirah. Salah is correct. So even if they believe, for example, it's better, or according to them, hold your hand below the navel. There's some madhahib who are on the navel, some madhahib who are above the navel. When it comes to raising the hand, some raise up to here, some up to here, some up to here, meaning in line of the shoulder, in line in between the ear and the towards the ear. They all have their different pieces of evidence. And if you find somebody who is following a different madhab or a different opinion to yours, inshallah, they all following people who are trusted, and they all have their pieces of evidence. You can still believe whatever you want to believe to be correct, but these are masail of ijtihad, where a person looked and they tried their best to get the correct opinion. They're not masail to be fought over. You've got to remember that. There's masail in fiqh, not masail to fight over. So quickly to recap, what's the compulsory pillars literally in salah? Tahrimah, qiyam, qira'ah, ruku', sujud, qad al-akhirah. And then you've got your beginning the salah. That's the description of the salah. Say Allahu Akbar. Then they speak to you about your hands, how far you should raise them. Okay. And the palms should be facing the qibla, the thumbs by the earlobes. And then where and how do you tie your hands for a man and for a woman? Another thing you must remember is, it might not sound like a lot, but if you were just reading, you can read this in 1 minute. But when you study it and you learn it and you're able to keep it with you and then build the masail on top of it, that's what's required. Today you take new masail, tomorrow you take new masail, the next day you take new masail. If you attend 100 lessons, you'll have a couple of hundred masails. It's about keeping those masail, learning those masail, going more in depth. It's not just about reading once and finishing and forgetting everything. Any question with what we took in the lesson?